Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the high-stakes, ridiculously fast-paced world of financial modeling. Look, if you've ever stared at a massive, completely overwhelming spreadsheet, or maybe spent hours trying to track down one maddening reference error, you are in the exact right place. Because whether you're trying to break into investment banking or crush it in corporate finance, this is exactly what you need to master. According to the Corporate Finance Institute, the intense, frankly terrifying reality of day one as a new investment banking analyst is actually pretty simple. Your mouse will be taken away, period. You'll be expected to learn financial modeling using only keyboard shortcuts. Just imagine that, showing up for your absolute dream job, and the very first thing they do is literally confiscate your mouse. It sounds extreme, right? But in this industry, speed and precision are absolutely everything.
So to survive and, actually thrive in corporate finance or FP&A, you have to go through a bit of a transformation. We're talking about transitioning from a casual, everyday spreadsheet user into an elite data processor, because it really isn't just about knowing what buttons to click anymore. It's about making the software an extension of your own brain, so you can crank out industry-leading analysis without missing a single beat.
To get you there, we've structured today's explainer as a sort of tiered mastery pyramid. We're going to start with Section 1, ditching the mouse. Then we'll move to Section 2, inserting your formulas. After that, we'll cover Section 3, the essential basics, before finally graduating to Section 4, advanced analyst tools. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, ditch the mouse. Memorizing these core keystrokes for PC and Mac is absolutely step one to becoming faster and vastly more efficient. Fast-paced repetition here is your best friend. You're going to need F2 to edit an active cell, Alt plus E plus S to pull up P special, and F4 to quickly toggle your cell references. You really need to build up that muscle memory for these actions, because the second you reach for that mouse, you completely break your analytical flow. Okay, now that your hands are firmly planted on the keyboard, let's move into Section 2, inserting your formulas. We need to look at the actual systematic ways to input those calculations. The CFI manual outlines 5 specific methods for inserting formulas, and establishing your preferred workflow early on is totally crucial for speed. So you can type directly into the cell, which is straightforward, sure, but definitely prone to typos if you aren't super careful. You can also use the Insert Function dialog box for full control, navigate the Formula tab menu, use the quick auto sum feature, or just lean on the recently used menu if you're doing a lot of repetitive modeling. But remember, we are not using the mouse to click through any of these menus. You've got to think of these keyboard shortcuts as basically magic spells. For instance, hitting Alt plus M plus F immediately brings up the exact Insert Function dialog box you need. Want to instantly sum a whole column? Just hit Alt plus the equals sign. You can execute all of these commands without ever letting your fingers touch the trackpad. Now, before we get to the really complex stuff, let's check out Section 3, the essential basics. The big takeaway here is understanding one very foundational difference. A formula is your custom math, like physically typing out A1 plus A2. But a function, that's a predefined command that Excel just does for you. It completely eliminates laborious manual entry, kind of like using the sum function to instantly calculate a massive range of cells. Once you've got that distinction down, you've got to master these 7 basic functions: sum, average, count, count A, if, trim, and min/max. These serve as the absolute baseline for literally any financial workflow. They're the building blocks you're going to use to clean data, find averages, count values, and set up your basic logic. Listen, if you don't know these inside and out, those fancy advanced models, they simply will not work. And details really, really matter here. Take count versus counta, for example. Count only recognizes numeric values, but counta, that counts everything: strings, dates, text, you name it. So if you accidentally use counta on a column with hidden text or random errors, it will absolutely break your entire model. Say goodbye to your Friday night.
Oh, and we definitely can't forget the trim function. This is a vital little spell that cleans up your data by just completely eliminating those unruly, invisible extra spaces that trigger so many frustrating errors. You know when you import data from other software and get those hidden trailing spaces? Wrapping your cell reference in trim instantly cleans that up, meaning your other formulas can actually read the data correctly. It's a total lifesaver.
All right, let's slow things down just a bit as we enter Section 4, advanced analyst tools. This is the fun part, where we start combining those baseline spells into highly sophisticated financial models.
First up is the absolute legend itself, the index match combination. Look, if you've been relying on VLOOKUP, it is officially time to upgrade. Index match is an incredibly powerful alternative that completely circumvents the serious limitations and, quite frankly, the rigidness of standard VLOOKUPs. Because, let's face it, if someone inserts a single new column, your VLOOKUP breaks instantly. Index match takes your modeling to a whole new level of flexibility.
Here is how that actually works under the hood. The index function returns a cell's value based entirely on its coordinates in a table. Meanwhile, the match function finds the precise position of a cell. When you nest match inside of index, you can pull data dynamically. For example, index match can find a person's exact height based purely on their name. And, unlike VLOOKUP, it will not break even if your colleagues go in and add or delete columns. It stays completely dynamic. Next up, we have IF statements combined with and or logic. Now, anyone who has spent any real time in financial models knows that deeply nested, multi-layered IF formulas can turn into an absolute unauditable nightmare. But by embedding an AND statement right inside your initial IF logic, you consolidate your conditions. This keeps the whole formula clean, super easy to read, and most importantly, actually auditable for your colleagues. Let's look at one final, highly sophisticated formula structure, combining the standard sum function with the offset function. On its own, offset isn't crazy or anything, but when you pair it with sum, it becomes incredible. By just replacing the static end of a normal sum formula with the offset function, your entire calculation becomes dynamic. It allows you to instantly sum a variable number of cells. So let's say you type a 3 into your control cell. The formula automatically offsets to sum exactly 3 consecutive years of data. Change that to a 5, and bam, it instantly updates to sum 5 years. It is an absolute game changer for building flexible models, like rolling forecasts. By moving deliberately through these levels of mastery, ditching the mouse, mastering the insertion of your basic functions, and ultimately deploying these advanced nested formulas, you build the real practical skills you need to stand out. This is exactly how you go from being a beginner to performing world-class, industry-leading corporate finance analysis. So, knowing all of this, I want you to really ask yourself, how much valuable time are you wasting doing things manually? How often are you instinctively reaching for that mouse when just a few keystrokes could do all the heavy lifting for you? It is officially time to hide the mouse, learn the shortcuts, and completely elevate your analysis. Are you ready to dive in?